Hello, my name is Naomi Farnaz. At first, we have to know what is a medical device. A medical device is an instrument, apparatus, in vitro reagent, implant, or other similar or related article which is intended for use in the diagnosis of disease or other condition or in the cure, treatment, or prevention of disease or intended to affect the structure or any function of the body and which does not achieve any of its primary intended purposes through its chemical action within or on the body. So medical devices are useful for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treatment, or elevation of disease or compensation for injury, investigation, replacement, modification, or support of the anatomy or of physiological process. Also, it's help for supporting or sustaining life and control of conception. According to USAID research, however, Bangladesh remains largely dependent on import for almost 85% of the demands of medical equipment in terms of value, with import amounting to over USD 40 million in years. There is a huge demand for equipment related to diagnosis and treatment of cardio disease such as ECG machines, stents, balloon, reflecting the rise of incident in the country. While the medium price range ECG machine is assembled locally at a small scale, high-end machine along with other diagnosis device like MRI, X-ray machine, ultrasonic scan, CT scan are imported. Life of a medical device segmented in different parts like conceptions and development, manufacture, packaging and labeling, advertising, sale, use and disposal. So we choose a medical device which is called oxygen concentrator. And oxygen concentrator are typically used as stationary sources to provide long-term oxygen therapy to patients at home. Oxygen concentrator consists of a cabinet that houses the compressor and fillers, tubing, a nasal cannula, and a mask. An important 5-liter oxygen concentrator costs 40 to 50,000 taka. So we plan to bring a low-cost central version of the product that is locally produced and has higher capacity for hospitals struggling to supply oxygen to multiple COVID patients. Here is a schematic of oxygen concentrator, which concentrates the oxygen from a gas supply by selectively removing nitrogen to supply an oxygen-enriched product gas stream. They are used industrially and as a medical device for oxygen therapy. This oxygen concentrators solve cylinder oxygen safe hazards, home CPAP for individual care, and it's also electricity independent.
This is Manzil Khan discussing the first two major problems. As our business would be patient-centric, meaning the value of our enterprise would be evaluated by the quality of life improved, not the amount of revenue generated, our main struggle would be securing funding. Healthcare startups are notoriously late to break even, thus direly in need of time and money with the patience to stick to the plan even if the ideas are materialized late. 94% startups do not make it to the second year, while most medical startups run out of the fund in the research and development phase. So we need government to encourage the angel investors to increase the 10% tax rebate on donation to humanitarian medical causes. Local contests like BIG Bangabandhu Innovation Grant has funded few medical startups, which include Oxyjet from the Department of the Biomedical Engineering BUET, a low-cost nasal cannula. International contests like Hull Prize UN have funded $1 million to Safe Wheels, a medical startup in Bangladesh. The lack of fund is also accompanied by lack of entrepreneurship skills. Incubators or accelerators like A2I from the IC department of the government of Bangladesh have funded another project from BME Buet, Rat Assist, a teleradiology client during the peak of COVID. Now we will look into the supply chain related deficiencies in the existing market. As the oxygen concentrator will be sold peer to peer, provider to provider, the forecasting would be easy. The need of inventory is also diminished, but it actually hinders the ability to deliver the time of emergency need. Bangladeshi tech industry is heavily dependent on the Chinese market for the parts, causing a non-responsive supply chain that failed during the corona situation. And our devices will help COPD patients but it needs to be paired with ventilators or low-cost alternatives like Oxygen. We have identified 77 serviceable obtainable market SOM with ventilators and ICU infrastructures which can be easy to access. But accessing the serviceable available market SAMs with existing but inadequate ICU infrastructure would be very tough. Thus, the SOM saturation will lead to revenue dip. So our team will prepare for SAM acquisition even before the SOM is saturated, thus improving the ICU infrastructure in Bangladesh. Meanwhile, the sources will be diversified to achieve a responsive supply chain. Delivering free samples for trial and user feedback will eventually grow our familiarity and trust.
Hello, I am Nazfat Astim Ahmed. I'll be talking about the next two problems. The time required to test and validate that this product performs as expected by following a documented procedure is critical in the development of oxygen concentrator. This will require multiple rounds of prototyping and testing, including clinical trials, to build the case proving effectiveness, which will all have to be fully documented and controlled. The queue and processing time for realizing an FDA certification is also quite long. It is not unexpected for this device to take months or even years to go through a process of achieving certification, all the while running on development and quality assurance expenses, which is actually a very big problem as this will lengthen the product development process and it will cost a lot of money. In order to grow and run the needed trials smoothly, the startup can partner up with large and established healthcare institutions where they can have a continuous flow of patients to run the trials on. With an established partnership, a lot of time can be saved as they will not have to look for authorization and schedule in every cycle of the trials. In this case, oxygen concentrator developers can establish a partnership with National Institute of Diseases of the Chest and Hospital, NIDCH Dhaka, the biggest chest disease hospital in the country with an abundance of patients in need of oxygen therapy. The next problem will be in the patent situation. To defend novelty, the startup should look to file patents as early as possible. In fact, provisional applications can be filed as soon as the idea starts taking shape. However, if the startup does choose to file a provisional application, it must submit a complete specification within 12 months. But on average, it can take a startup anywhere from 3 to 4 years to obtain a full patent. The process can also be costly depending on the skills and experience of the attorney. A regular non-provisional patent can cost from $250 to $300, and the whole process can cost from $10,000 to $30,000 with legal fees. In order to reduce the financial burden, the developers of oxygen concentrator can make use of schemes offered by our government for facilitator engagement and fee relaxation. They can also take out business loans specified for startups.
I'm Alfachuddin Ahmed. I'll be presenting the regulatory activities. The healthcare industry being one of the most important sectors of the economy, a product investment in this sector would lead the people being able to carry out financial economic activities and increase of the overall GDP of the country. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is engaged in providing preventive, curative and promoting services as well as emergency care of Bangladesh has established agency named Directorate General of Health Services DGHS. The main focus of this agency are the implementation of different health programs, management, planning and execution of different health policies through administration. A name clearance for the proposed company needs to be obtained from the register of joint stock and companies. In order to start a business in Bangladesh, the most important requirement is the acquisition of a trade license and TIN certificate. Every business in order to operate is required to have a BIN number obtained by VAT registration process of the National Board of Revenue. The industrial enterprise in Bangladesh, either local or foreign, have to be registered in the Bangladesh Investment Development Authority before use, change or expansion of any house, building or premises as factory. An approval in writing from the Department of Inspection for Factory and Establishment shall be taken. Environment clearance certificate, fire licensing, import-export registration is needed. In order to protect trademark and other IP related matters after the registration of the entity, it can apply to the Department of Patents, Designs and Trademarks operated under the Ministry of Industries. Company has to maintain employment law, labor acts and contract law. All these are necessary, but this play as a huge resistance against the establishment of a medical company. For our production of a new device like our oxygen concentrator, it will take at least 4 years to make a break even. This will discourage investors to invest for a company despite having a great market value and demand. Effective policy guidelines with strong implementation are required to ensure quality outcomes from both private and public healthcare industrial sectors. In Bangladesh, a growing population with rising demands for quality health service would lead into an increase in the number of medical companies establishment. This will encourage foreign investors to invest in the healthcare business sector for economic profit.